Hey guys, good morning, good evening. Before we start, of course, I'd like to introduce myself. And before that, guys, thank you so much for joining this course. All of you, a very good welcome to this course from Edureka team. And we are pretty glad for having you here, guys. Thank you so much for joining in and being patient. We'll still have a couple of minutes, maybe one more minute. We'll wait and give the benefit of doubt for others to join in. All right, guys. So let's start with a quick round of introduction. And I'll introduce myself. With time constraint, I might not be able to hear you up, guys, but obviously, I'm hoping that some of you, I can hear you out in the classes that I'm going to have. So with this thought in mind, and hoping that, this is not the last time we are meeting, hoping that we're going to talk about Big Data and Hadoop in particular going forward. So let's start the session, a little bit of ice breaking by introducing myself. My name is Nayan, and I have around 11 years of experience. I'll be an instructor for this course, and I also take batches for Edureka. My batch is coming up on this weekend, and I have almost 5 years of experience working with Hadoop and big data projects. I'm a certified Cloudera developer, and recently I also concluded my certification in Cloudera administration. So you can say I'm an administrator, developer. And normally, I go to client places, I talk to the clients, I understand the requirements, and I try to find out what is the best suitable blueprint for solutioning about the use cases that they're thinking of providing a solution to from the client side. So normally people ask me, hey, Nayan, you are saying that you are a big data, an architect, you're a data scientist. What do you normally do? Well, out of a lot of things that I do, the best part, guys, and the most interesting part, if you ask me, is I normally go to the clients and hear them out. I talk to them and understand what is their pain points, what exactly the problems that they are facing. Some of them will talk about how challenging business has been for them because of the amount of data that they are seeing right now. Some of them are saying, hey, we want to do a lot of analytics on the data. We want to do a lot of predictive model on the data. We want to find those, insights on the data, but we do not know how to do that. Some of them says, the infrastructure cost of maintaining a huge database is so huge. With the amount of the volume of the data that's getting increasing, we are finding it impossible to set up everything into the current infrastructure setup. So as and when you go into different clients, talk to them, you'll understand that there are so much of issues, pain points, and bottlenecks that clients are facing in today's world. And all of them boil down to almost the same thing. All of these issues boil down to almost the same thing. That is related to the volume of the data that they're seeing, the capabilities and the processing capabilities of all these traditional architectures that we're talking about. People are saying, hey, with these traditional architectures, with the traditional systems that we are using, it becomes impossible for us to process it going forward. And then obviously we see a lot of challenges where people are trying to move from a legacy system into the next gen system like Hadoop. And obviously we have issues, with these setup about the velocity of the data, with the speed in which the data is being ingested, the speed in which the data is getting generated. All these pain points, are something that people have been worried about. So when I go into the client place and I talk to them and I see their problems, I say, hey, you definitely need a big data solution. You definitely need a solution which can adhere to all these problems and the solutions that you're talking about. So what do you do? So client says, help me out in this. I say, okay, what you do is we will provide you an end-to-end Hadoop-based solutions. And for providing an end-to-end Hadoop-based solution, what we're going to do is we're going to create a blueprint for you, a design blueprint, an architecture blueprint, a solution blueprint, and an implementation blueprint. So unlike any other technology, Hadoop is not a programming language. Hadoop is not a solution in that way. Hadoop is a platform, and because it is a platform, we need to provide them with a platform architecture, a solution blueprint, a design blueprint, an infrastructure blueprint, and a lot of things. Entire thing together is something what we call as Hadoop-based solutions. So we're going to see right now as how different verticals of Hadoop exists, what you guys as career prospects can choose which phase of Hadoop, which vertical of Hadoop will suit you better, and how Hadoop is so simple in certain terms that it can define the career path for you. You do not have to be masters in certain areas to be in Hadoop. You can choose your own path because Hadoop is a platform, and this platform has various verticals. Based on the verticals, based on your choice, based on the experience that you have, you can choose which path will suit you best. And that's exactly what we do in Hadoop-based solution, guys. We talk to the clients, understand their problems, and we provide an end-to-end solution. While providing this end-to-end solution, we need resources who are experienced, who have enough knowledge into all these vertices. And that is where we have seen a tremendous growth in the resource requirements in today's world. People require Hadoop-based resources because everybody is trying to move into this next generation of technologies. So we're going to talk about more in details about what is Hadoop, how Hadoop works in. We have a couple of questions from Rajesh. We're going to park this question for now. I'm going to answer this question when we cover up a couple of slides, because then we can understand the context between the responses that we have. All right, guys, going forward. So next question you'll ask me is, what are these vertices? What exactly you can do? So you can become a data scientist, you can become a big data visualizer, you can become a big data research analyst, you can become a big data engineer, an architect, and an analyst. Well, now the question is, what are these things? What are these positions? What are the roles and responsibilities of this? So okay, instead of me talking about this from a broader angle, let me tell you a story. All right, everybody loves story, right, guys? I love telling stories. All right, imagine that you guys are the managers of a bank, right? You guys are the managers of a bank, and this quarter your responsibility is to find out the best possible location where you can set up an ATM, right? So your responsibility is to find out the best possible location in the city where you can set up an ATM. So guys, what do you do? What do you think as a manager your choice can be? Come on, guys, anybody wants to get a crack at it? Anybody who wants to provide a solution to that? Think about it, guys. It's fun to provide solutions, right? What do you suggest? Guys, you there? So guys, you can type in or key in your questions and answers in there. It becomes very interactive if you help me out in this. No? Come on, guys, give me a solution. Actually, I asked the same question to another batch, and one of the guy was pretty mindful. He said, being a manager, I'll set up an ATM right in front of my home. And I say that's a pretty valid answer. If I am a manager, guys, honestly, I'll set up an ATM right in front of my home because every time I want to go out of my house or come back in, I can withdraw cash. It might not be a rational decision, but that will be a valid decision. George says, can you repeat the question? Yes, sure, George. Yeah. Imagine that you are the manager of a bank, a bank, the financial institution, a bank, and your responsibility for this quarter would be to find out the best possible location to set up an ATM. So your requirement is to find out the best possible location to set up an ATM. Sunil says, take a review in the area of other ATMs. Yes, valid point. Raghavendra says, I'll get information about my complete locality and do research about best possible location. Valid answer, guys. I totally understand that. Yes. Ganesh says, know the locations of my bank account holders. Yes, valid points. All of you are absolutely correct. So okay, Jay says, first check with locations the ATMs are already located and then identify the density of the population and find the best fit. Yes, valid answer. Location and demand, Sami says, yep, valid answer. So guys, my point is, all of you, gave absolutely right answer. Vinod says security, yes, locality which has more security. I totally agree with you, Vinod. Right? What about rival banks? See which ATMs are located for other ATMs and put an ATM on places where I have less ATMs and others have high ATMs. That can also be a solution, right? It can be, so there is no one single correct answer. But my point is, all these questions, all these answers that we are trying to generate, all these answers that we are trying to find out have their root into one only thing. The only thing that can help me make a decision. So guys, what exactly is the important thing that I need for making a decision? Be it in your personal life, be it in your professional life, when you really want to make a decision in your life, in your careers, in your job, what is that one thing that you really look forward to, guys? What allows you to make a rational decision? If I am the manager and if I want to really make us or set up an ATM right in front of my house, that can be a decision, but that will never be a rational decision, right? How to ensure that my decisions are rational? What exactly do I need, guys? Amit Jan says maximum resource utilization. Yeah. Tarun says data. Absolutely right. One thing that I need to make up a rational decision would always be the data. If I have enough data, the amount of information that I can get out of the data, and when I make a decision by knowing the data, we always have high chances of success because the decision is based out of the data. The more the data I have, the more rational the decisions I can have, and the more chances, the more likelihood the decision is going to be correct, right? So data would always be the starting point, which will help me ensure that my decisions are always rational. So for me, as a manager, if I really want to find out where exactly I can set up an ATM, I need to collect data. So as a manager, what I do is I do not collect data, of course. I go to my analytics team. I go to the team which can make this happen for me. So I go to the team and I tell them, you find me the best possible location where I can set up an ATM. So these guys will say, hey, how do I get it? So first what will happen is there will be some architects. There will be some architects and there will be some analysts. They will try to find out where exactly those use cases fit. What are the options I have of finding out the data? So these analysts and architects, these are pretty much industry oriented. They are pretty much use case driven and business oriented people. So they know the businesses and they'll say, hey, you know what? One way is take the data from the customer database. Every financial institute have a database. They'll definitely have a customer database. Go and collect the data from the customer database. All right, this is one source of data. Second source of data. What can be a second source of data? The second source of data can be, let's say, go to the customer care division, find out the logs. A lot of people might have opened up chats in their net banking and had a one-on-one chat with the customer care representative stating the problems that they cannot find ATMs in their locality. So we can search for data in log files where customers have really gone and talked to the customer care representative and complained about the lack of ATMs in a particular location. So that will be totally unstructured, free-flowing data, right? These are text data, exchange of text, exchange of free-flowing text between the customer care representative and my clients or the customers. So this can be second source of data. Third source of data can be, well, obviously, if I go into the social media, I can find out, I can search the Twitter when I can find out if somebody have been complaining about the lack of ATMs, tweeting about the lack of ATMs for my bank. The fourth option can be, well, audio visual files, right? A lot of people just call up the customer care and say, hey, I cannot find an ATM, can you help me? Audio files, totally different binary data. Fifth use case or the fifth data source can be, as I said, set up an opinion poll. Whenever somebody goes and logs into the net banking site, you set up an opinion poll, give them 5 options and say, hey, which area do you really mind for having an ATM? The sixth option is go and do some research on your competitors and find out what is the density of the ATMs for them. So there are n number of different ways of collecting data, and a person who is associated with the business, he knows the businesses in and out, who is actually associated with the vertical of your business associations or your business organizations, people who have experience with financial sections, they can easily identify the sources of the data. So we need people who are big data architects or analysts. They know the businesses more, and they can find out those business use cases for you. You need those people to define the use case, to provide a blueprint of the solution. All right, now they have provided, they have laid down the ground realities that yes, these are the different ways that you can collect the data. Now the second question is, how do you materialize this use case? How do you provide a solution to this use case? Well, can you put all these different kinds of data into a relational database? Guys, can you put all this data into a relational database? Data which are free-flowing text, actually, customer database data, audio-visual files, CSV data. If you're getting the data from all different sources, from all different varieties, can you really put the data into a single relational database? Do you think, guys, it is possible in today's world? Summit says no. Absolutely right. In relational database, the structure is pretty much well defined. You cannot just go ahead and send or save any kind of data into the relational database. Relational database will not allow you to save data which are so much disproportionate, which are so much different, which are so much varied. The variety of the data, when you are talking about the variety, you cannot just have this data and load it into your relational database. Absolutely impossible. All right, then what do you do? What is the solution that you have? Now comes your big data engineers, and a lot of it also is associated with architects. They will say, hey, you know what? The solution to this can be done by Hadoop. You fulfill the criteria of Hadoop. Why? Because you have huge amount of data. When you are collecting data from all these different sources, the volume of the data is going to be unimaginable. It's so huge. And second thing is, you are talking about variety of data. You're talking about so many different types of data. Big data is the only solution that can help you save all this variety of data, irrespective of how much of data you have, into a common single platform and analyze them. So my big data engineers and my big data architects, they have laid out the platform that yes, when I have a problem statement, when I have a use case, I have a solution. The solution is big data. Now, engineers and architects, they are going to set up the platform. They're going to create those structures, set up those clusters, set up an end-to-end Hadoop-based platform on top of which now you can dump the data and start analyzing. But what do you analyze? What algorithms do you write to analyze the data? How do you write those algorithms which can potentially take or use the Hadoop as a system and analyze the data for you? How do you define, how do you think about all those wonderful algorithms? Well, that is where your data scientist comes into picture. A data scientist is the person who knows how to create models. He knows, looking into the problem statement, how to create a solution for that, how to write implementation and solution for that. Do this solution have to be Java oriented? No. Does the solution have to be only associated with Python? No. There are multiple ways of writing programs. The programs can be written in as simple as SQL based languages to as complicated as machine learning languages. So you have a lot of different types of data scientists who are specialized in different things. Some of the data scientists do have a great experience, let's say 10 years of experience, 20 years of experience into SQL programming. Looking into the data, they can create wonderful complicated SQL algorithms that can generate those models and provide a solution for you. Others are coming from machine learning background. Giving a data set, they can write those wonderful models that can predict a lot of things for you. Sankirtan says, is Java a prerequisite? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, Java is never ever a prerequisite, guys. Java is a programming language. Hadoop cannot be associating itself with a programming language. Hadoop is a platform. Hadoop is so much more bigger than just a programming language. If you know Java, can there be one part of Hadoop which you can be helped with? Yes. If you know Java, then it can help with one part of it. If you know SQL, then it can help you one part of it. So no matter which programming language you have experience with, you can bring your own expertise, and Hadoop has a position for you which can help you in becoming a data scientist. So that's what I'm saying, guys. If you want to become a data scientist, you know one programming language, and that programming language will help you generate those models and create wonderful reports. Now, the data scientist, coming back to my story, that data scientist will basically create those models, write those algorithms, and run those algorithms. When you run those algorithms, you generate those outputs. Now, the outputs that you generate will always be in a tabular format. You cannot do anything with the tabular format, right? You really need reports. You really need wonderful charts and matrices and wonderful graphs for representing your answers. That is where your big data visualizer or BI team comes into picture. So as a part of the BI team, you load up the data, you create wonderful matrices, reports, and charts, and that chart you go back to the manager, which is us, and the analytical team gives us a report. Looking into the report, it becomes very easy for us to say, hey, maybe ABC is the location where I need to set up an ATM. So my point, guys, is big data doesn't have a single role. It has a lot of different roles. You can choose to be a data scientist. You can choose to be a BI analyst. You can become a research analyst. You can become an engineer, a big data architect, or an analyst from a business domain perspective. So you can choose your career path based on what exactly is your career aspiration. When you talk about Hadoop, it is not a single role. It is not a single development role. It is a series of options, a series of roles, and you can choose your career path based on your comfort level. You can choose to become a data scientist, or you can choose to become a big data analyst based on your experience, your motivation, and your wish to become or to fulfill that particular role. And Hadoop big data solution providing setup requires people from all those domains. You cannot just set up a project with only a data scientist. You need people from all those domains coming up and setting up the entire end-to-end architecture of big data. And you guys, when you come to this Hadoop Edureka platform, you can choose which courses you want, you can choose which courses you need, and you can track down your career paths by finding out what is exactly suiting you up. So as I said, any programming language is not a prerequisite because you have so many different vertices, you have so many different career opportunities and options, and you can choose any one of them. So Raghavendra says, I'm a data warehouse reporting developer. What would be an appropriate choice for me in choosing big data? Hadoop developer or data scientist? I have worked on Tableau. Would that be enough to serve as big data scientist? Well, to become a data scientist, you might have to upskill yourself. But if you really want to use your own existing experience, you can always become a BI analyst. A BI analyst is the one who uses different BI tools, like the one you said, Tableau, Pentaho, Informatica. They're all BI analysts, right? And BI analyst plays a very important part and role in setting up the entire solution blueprinting. So when you talk about providing a solution to client, you need people from all those backgrounds. Nitin says, for ETL developer coming from Teradata and traditional data warehousing background, which big data tech is feasible and recommended? I would say you can become a big data engineer because you have SQL skills, right? You can look into the data, you can find out the hidden patterns in the data by querying against the data, right? So people who have experience in ETL have working with Teradata, because Teradata is also a relational, a certain relational database. So you can bring your own experience of writing complex queries and become a big data architect or big data engineer. Jay says, I do not have programming experience, would like start my analytics career with Hadoop. What would be ideal for me? So if you do not have programming experience, you might have experience in something, right? A lot of people have experience in networking. A lot of people have experience in infrastructure management. You can always go ahead and become, a big data architect who can set up the entire platform. Amir says, what about tester? So even in testing, Amir, you might have certain skills, because there are a lot of people who come from, there are a lot of people who come from testing background and they have SQL experience. They have, experience with identifying the use cases, and being a tester means you understand businesses a lot more than the developers, right? You can start your careers, sorry guys, as big data analyst. Aligning yourself with the use cases, aligning yourself with the actual client's requirement perspective. And obviously, guys, that's what I'm saying, that it cannot be the end of your career progression. You start your career with one of those levels. You start your careers with one of those, and you then get or gain enough experience and skills to move up and experience and explore the other possibilities also, right? You start off with one single thing and then you move across and get yourself familiarized with the other aspects of big data. So as a starting point, people who have been associating themselves with clients, businesses, your use case verticals, they can start with becoming or being a big data analyst. Raghavendra, this is for data scientists. What are the skills required? We'll definitely come back to that, Raghavendra. Let's park these questions for now. Yes, you can be, a data scientist skilled with R, with Python, with Scala, with Java. Again, data scientist is a very big term. A data scientist can write simple models. A data scientist can write machine learning, models. When you are talking about machine learning models, you have to be very good in statistics, and you need to know wonderful machine learning algorithms. So you have to, upskill yourself with MLlib, Mahout, and H2O. There are so many different libraries available with respect to machine learning, right? So yeah, data scientist is not machine learning. Data scientist can be as simple as writing a SQL query also. A person who can look into the data, create a simple query, and the query can give them a pretty robust result can also be a work of data scientist, right? So we're going to see an example, guys, very soon. Is it a good idea to join Big Data and Hadoop course? Absolutely yes. So with this thought in mind, as what I'm talking about right now, guys, that there's so many different career opportunities and options. Clients are trying to move into the next generation of technologies because of all those issues, problems, and challenges that they're facing with traditional systems. Right now is the best time to switch your careers if you really want it. Yes. Can this be a smooth journey? Well, Edureka can make it smooth for you. But like with learning a new platform, you have to invest time and your effort into that. So when you are ready for making a leap of faith into a new technology, you will see the benefits because people are now trying to move into Hadoop-based worlds because they really need a solution which can provide a blueprint, which can provide an end-to-end response to the challenges that clients are facing in today's world. Nagesh says, I've been told that Java is not required. That's okay, but what I do if I do not know Pig, Hive, etc., are they going to be covered in the course? Yes. So there are as Naresh says, guys, there are certain programming languages, command-based utilities that are part of Hadoop Big Data. So nobody will know that unless and until you have experienced Hadoop. So in this course, we're going to teach you all those new technologies and all these new high-level languages. All right. So yes. But traditional languages like Java and all, yeah, if you do not know it, no worries at all. So as I've been, putting across my thoughts, right now, if you look into it, guys, big data world is blooming, and because of these use cases and because of these career aspirations that I was talking about, people have seen a tremendous growth in all these problem statements. We have seen that people there are requirements of resources. There are requirements of absolute high-level resources who can come down and work with big data projects. Because right now every client is going and moving outside the comfort zone and putting across a big data platform for their own industries. And as a consultant, as a consulting companies, we see that a lot of clients are actually coming up and requesting for moving into Hadoop. When people tried moving into Hadoop, we need resources. We need people who are Hadoop skilled and Hadoop trained. In today's world, you see that there are more number of requirements than the number of people in the industry, right? So it's a huge thing that's a part of the requirement. Rams, okay, I have a couple of questions. Sampath says, please advise. All right, so what was the question actually? I'm a C++ firmware engineer with Linux knowledge. Will that be sufficient, suitable, I can look into? Honestly, yeah, guys, Sampath, you are absolutely spot on. But if you ask me, if you know one single programming language, that's it. You do not need to learn everything. Because if I know C++, which is an object-oriented programming language, switching into Java is a child's play. So guys, you should not be, at least in this point, you should not be bothered about which programming language you know. If you know at least one programming language, that's it. Because learning a new skill, learning a new programming language, which is like learning a new syntax, I would say it will not take you more than a couple of days to learn that. If you already are familiar with the object-oriented programming language, you can learn another programming language like Python or Java in a couple of days. So yes, if you have experience writing codes, implementing codes with a similar object-oriented version, then yes, I would say you can become a data scientist. You can align yourself into becoming a data scientist. Just a second, guys. Sorry, guys. So I would say if you see, I'm not saying that these are something that you really have to think about, but that's what I've seen with my friends, with my colleagues. I've been talking to a couple of guys, a lot of guys, in fact, in my companies, and when they come to me for advice, I give them the same advice, guys. that if you have experience with SQL programming, you put yourself into that profession, at least for now. 6 months, 8 months, you try solving problems with Hive. Hive is very similar to your SQL. If you have experience with Python or Java, I would suggest write a lot of MapReduce program. A lot of custom MapReduce program is suitable because, right, you are using your own skill and learning Hadoop. A lot of people who say, hey, I have experience with ETL and data warehousing, I still tell the same thing to them. You can always align yourself with the BI tools, or you can also learn something new called Pig, which will be very simple for you, right? So no matter which profession, which background you're coming from, the ideal point is you have a skill. You know something, you have learned something. And Hadoop gives you that flexibility that you can use that own skill and move into Hadoop. Once you move into Hadoop, eventually, sequentially, you have to learn other skills as well. You cannot confine yourself into learning only a single thing. But you take the leap of faith into Hadoop with your own comfort level. You take that leap with the knowledge that you have. You spend time learning Hadoop with the same programming or the same experience and the skill set that you have. And with time, you yourself see moving into other directions and exploring other things. If you want to start Hadoop, you start with your own comfort level, and eventually you have to go ahead and explore other verticals also. And that is how you become a technical architect. If you want to become a tech arch, you have to experience all these verticals. But as a starting point, you start with one vertical, you know your comfort level, you go into and take a dive into that vertical with your own experience and skill, and eventually over a period of time, you gain enough knowledge, experience, and you learn more skills and experience the other verticals of Hadoop also. Sunil says, what is your opinion of Hadoop versus Spark? What will be the leader in coming years? Well, Hadoop and Spark are not two different things, Sunil. Spark is just a small service which runs on top of Hadoop. So Hadoop will always be the base. Hadoop is your actual base. Spark is a way of processing data. So you can use something within Hadoop to process data, or you can run Spark on top of Hadoop for processing data. So both of them are actually quite associated with each other. You cannot have Spark without Hadoop. And when you talk about Hadoop, eventually, as an advanced user, you will eventually turn into Spark later on. So yes, both of them are complementing each other. Ram says, I heard there is a challenge in cloud data certification starting this year. May I know if this is right? If yes, can you elaborate the changes? Well, honestly, I do not know the changes because I've heard about it because every year they change the pattern in which the certifications are done. Till last year, guys, or last to last year, it was multiple choice questions. They had a lot of, you can read a lot of books, you can come up with your own idea, but they have a lot of use case driven questions also. The questions are associated with your experience into Hadoop projects. So I honestly, guys, if you ask me, if you spend 6 months into a Hadoop project, you'll gain enough knowledge to go and crack a cloud data certification. With this year, I'm not sure because they have just changed it, or they're planning to change it from this January itself. So if I get to know somebody who has given certification this year, because my certification was 2 years back, right now, but every year they do change the question pattern. But no matter, guys, whatever they change, it will always be associated with Hadoop. If you know Hadoop, you can crack it. They are pretty much use case oriented. They are pretty much business driven use cases that they talk about and say, how do you solve it? What are the tools you will use? What are the daemons that you will be invoking? So if you go ahead and complete this 30-hour course in Edureka, I can guarantee you guys that it can be 70–80% of the things that you're going to face in the exams will be covered in the course. The course in Edureka is so well organized and structured that if you go and complete this entire 30 hours with your own effort, of course, you will find it so much easier, simpler, and quite helpful in sitting up for these certification exams. Tejaswani says, I'm a postgraduate fresher without any prior IT industry. No issues, Tejaswani. If you are a graduate, postgraduate, coming into the industry, you can choose your vertical. For you, learning anything would be new, right? In case you have a preference, you can go in that path. If you do not have a preference, pick up one. Pick up one, because you're going to learn anything you're going to learn is going to be new for you. You pick up one, and then you become quite a master in that particular vertical, and you move ahead along with your experience and see how Hadoop takes you forward, right? So you take a leap of faith thinking that yes, whatever you learn can be new. If you have an affinity towards SQL, go for Hive. If you have an affinity towards programming, go for custom program languages like Python or Java or Scala. If you are interested in all those BI tools and all, then you can go ahead with these also. What types of jobs you can apply for Hadoop developers or admins? Well, you answered the question, Amesh. So yes, if you are, so Hadoop developer is a Hadoop developer job. You are supposed to write, you are supposed to have or create models. Can you create models in SQL or in custom programming language or in high-level languages like Spark or Pig? That will be something that the job description will have. But if you want to be a developer, your goal would be to write those models, to create those models. As an admin, your responsibility would be to set up the cluster, to scale up or scale down the cluster, to look into the infrastructure, manage the infrastructure, performance tuning, performance monitoring, and benchmarking. Those will be your job profile. Okay, so Ram says, is Spark covered as a part of Hadoop training? So we have a lot of different courses. We're going to talk about them. One of these courses is Spark. So yes. As an electrical stream, I do not have any IT experience, but have only knowledge in writing SQL queries. Can you advise? So yes, I made my point, right? So yes, you can start with Hive. You can start, becoming a SQL programmer, and you can, start your career by writing those models in SQL and then move ahead. Yes. As a Hadoop developer and admin, how are the roles different? So yeah, I answered that, right? I have a question regarding Hadoop. I have 9 years experience in EUC, so Hadoop will be beneficial for me or not? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Nitish says, I'm confused between Hadoop, Hive, and Cloudera. All right, that's valid. So we're going to talk about this. Do you teach Python or programming language required for big data in this course? Unfortunately, Raghavendra, no. What are the skill sets already? What is the skill set asked frequently in the market for big data projects? Well, there is no one single solution to that. As I said, because you are looking into resources from any of these 8 or 6 different verticals, right? So if there is a position for data scientist, then the job profile can be that you have wonderful experience in SQL, or you have wonderful experience in Java, or you have wonderful experience in statistics and all this. If the job requirement is associated with BI, then you should know one of those BI tools like Tableau or Talent or Informatica or Pentaho. If it's a research analyst, then you have to be very familiar with Pig or Hive or MapReduce programming or Spark, if you say. If you're talking about a big data engineer, then you have to know your platform, networking platforms, Unix, Linux, lot more. If you're talking about architects, then you have to be very much aligning yourself with the underlying OS system, the platform as a whole, all this. If you're talking about big data analysts, then you're aligning yourself with the more business front of it. So you can choose which vertical suits you better, but no matter which vertical you choose, you have to upscale yourself, guys, at a certain point of time in your career. You can start with one, and you have to upscale yourself at a certain level. That's what I'm saying. All right, so guys, we'll park the question for some time. We have a lot of slides, and these slides do cover up all your questions, right? So whatever your questions, you keep writing them out. I'll take these questions once I wind up the class a little bit, all right? So what I'm trying to say is all your questions are already answered when you go ahead in the class. So as I said, popular learning paths in big data. So if you want to be a developer, then you have to know Spark, Storm, Kafka, or all those implementational processes. So all those processes that are associating with implementation, you need to know those. If you're talking about being a data analyst, you have to know the analytical programs like statistics, data analytics, predictive modeling, machine learning. If you're talking about database administration, you are coming from a database point, then you can talk about all those databases in Hadoop. There are so many NoSQL databases in Hadoop, and you can start your career from there. If you're talking about being a data scientist, then you need to know data science. You have to understand Hadoop development lifecycle, either with Pig or Hive or any other programming language. And if you're talking about big data architects, then you have to talk about becoming administrators, or you have to have enough experience in networking, cloud computing, and all. So my point is, no matter which path you choose, all the paths will have at least one angle which will allow you to bring your own experience and work in Hadoop. As you start working in Hadoop, you will see that you are moving towards learning new things and many more new things. So you start your careers with one of those parameters which suits you better. You start your career with one of those programming aspects that you are more comfortable with. And as you move along, you will find yourself getting more and more lineages towards learning other skills. So your skill will be upskilled anyways. You start your career with something and you find yourself learning new and new things as you move along. And that is how the course has been organized in Edureka, right? That you get to learn a lot of new things, you need to practice a lot of new things, and even though you come from a background, you find the transition of moving from your own comfort level to another zone of learning something new so much simple and easy. And that's what Edureka course does for you. It makes that transition so smooth for you. So why Big Data and Hadoop? So let me answer the question somebody asked, right, that the difference between Hadoop, Hive, and Cloudera. I'll give you an answer, Nitish. To answer your question, I'll take the question and rephrase another question. What is the difference between Big Data, Hadoop, Hive, and Cloudera? All right. The entire solution or the entire answer can be given to you when you join the course, because the answer is quite big. But to give you an overall perspective, Big Data is a problem statement. A client which is facing a problem because of volume of the data, because of processing capabilities of the data, would be stating a big data problem. So big data is a problem statement. Like the way we had, right? We had an ATM problem. How to set up an ATM? That is a big data problem. How to solve the problem? Hadoop is a platform for solving big data problems. So we said, yes, we're going to set up an Hadoop platform and we're going to ingest the data or put all the data from all different sources into Hadoop. So Hadoop is a solution to a big data problem. All right. So Hadoop is a platform which provides a solution to a big data problem. Now Hadoop is a platform, right? It's not a programming language. It's a platform. Platform comprises of an n number of different services, out of which Hive is one service. So Hive is a service under Hadoop which can help you solve problems using a technology called Hive. That technology is pretty much aligned with SQL programming. So if you are a SQL developer, you can go and run and write some queries in Hive which can be executed on Hadoop, which can solve your big data problem, right? And now, what is Cloudera? Well, Hadoop is an open source platform. It's an open source platform which is actually maintained by Apache. Now you'll agree with me that nobody will allow you to go ahead and install and set up an open source platform in your production, right? Your production setup cannot be an open source. So there are a lot of vendors in the market which provides a licensed support structure for Apache Hadoop. So they use same Apache Hadoop, they use Apache Hadoop, but they wrap this Apache Hadoop with a lot of licensing, testing, a quite stable product, and they sell the same Apache Hadoop as a licensed version. And those companies are called actual distributions of Hadoop, right? So Cloudera is one of the distributors of Hadoop. Hortonworks being another distributor of Hadoop. MapR would be another distributor of Hadoop. So there are a lot of Hadoop is same. They're taking the Hadoop from same Apache site, but they're packaging the same Hadoop with a lot of their own custom-built processes and programs and creating a bundle along with a support structure. And that is what they provide. So Cloudera, Hortonworks, MapR, they all provide Hadoop, but a licensed version of Hadoop. So how it works? So if you plan to join Edureka, how it will help you? So we have a huge set of experienced instructors. Instructors in Edureka will always be having minimum of 10, 12 years of experience and minimum of 4 to 5 or more years of experience into Hadoop big data programs. So if you ask them questions, they can give you an industry insight and an answer to your problems. So we have experienced instructors, flexible schedules. So we always have flexible schedules. If you anyways do not get to join a class, you can always go ahead and talk to Edureka team. They can always schedule you another class for the same with another batch. If you happen to miss a particular class, you can always go ahead and look into the recordings. Recordings will be available to you 24/7, and you can always go ahead and check out the recording in case you miss a class. The entire 30-hour course is divided into modules. The modules are very easy to follow, and the way that they are processed, or the way the modules are categorized, you'll find a very nice, smooth and easy flow of learning new things. There are in-class questions, so we always encourage people to ask questions, and we provide them solutions, right? So if you keep a question in your head, so guys, according to me, if you're learning something new, and if you have a question at the back of your head, you cannot learn a new thing unless and until that question gets cleared, because you want to get that question out of your mind. So we have wonderful instructors, and they're going to give you actual answers, and you can learn new things with an open mind. We have a verifiable certificate. We're going to provide you with a certificate saying that you have completed that. We have projects. You can complete projects, and then you have 24/7 support. So you have end-to-end support, you have certificates, you have all different ways of ensuring that your experience of learning Hadoop is as smooth as it can get. Normally, if you talk about Hadoop, we have a lot of different courses, but if you're talking about the basic Hadoop course, then the basic Hadoop course is a 30-hour course, and that course is divided into 10 modules. The first module is understanding big data, so we're going to talk about everything, the basics of big data. Then we're going to talk about the architectures of HDFS, the framework of MapReduce, so where we go and align ourselves into more programs. MapReduce framework 1, 2, advanced MapReduce, we're going to have a lot of advanced features also. Big Sqoop, we're going to talk about them. Hive, as we said, advanced Hive, advanced HBase, Uzi. So all in all, guys, this slide talks about the 30-hour course is going to be enough for you to become experts in big data Hadoop in such a way. If you practice all this, if you are pretty much self-motivated, and if you follow the classes, that will be enough for you to take you to the next level, because these courses cover up every single thing that as a Hadoop developer you need to know from Hadoop perspective. So you can master big data and Hadoop by doing more than one project. So we have a lot of projects, and we're going to see a small project today also, guys, a small example. But if you have, we provide a lot of different actual industry-based use cases and projects. If you complete the projects, you will find yourself saying that, hey, I know everything about big data. I know a lot of things, and now I can be self-sufficient. I can go into a project and I can take it forward from there. So we in 30 hours ensure that when you complete one project, when you complete the entire 30 hours and complete one project, you become an advanced Hadoop developer in such a way that now if you go into any project, you can start learning that. You can be aware that yes, you can go ahead and learn anything on your own. So we give you that base, we give you the platform where you can go ahead and learn anything that you want. So after you complete, we'll provide you with a certificate. The certificate will be mailed to you, and you'll be certified big data, certified big data developer with respect to Hadoop, and you're going to use and flaunt this certificate for good, because this ensures that you know how to use big data. You have completed a project, and it gives you actual certificate stating that you are now ready to take up an actual project and go ahead and use your big data Hadoop skills in actual world. All right, so guys, all of you are asking questions. Park your questions for now. We'll definitely answer your questions. We have time for that, guys. All right, so what will you learn today? So we're going to learn Hadoop components, introduction to Sqoop and Hive, loading data using Sqoop, and processing data using Hive. Let's see a small example of Hadoop so that all of us can be familiarized, like what exactly needs to be done, right? So not sure about Hadoop. So Financier, we are not sure about Hadoop thing. Could you just dump all into Excel for us? So that's a pretty stupid question. That's a small joke on Hadoop, right? Like somebody says, can you download the internet in my hard disk? As simple as that. Can you just dump all the data into Excel for us in Hadoop? Point is, all these discussions that we had till now, we were talking about Hadoop. What does Hadoop do? Hadoop does provide you with a platform for solving big data problems. What are big data problems? Problems that has been created with respect to the limitations with storage, processing, or volume and velocity problems. So any problem that are related to volume, velocity, processing capabilities, these are all associating with Hadoop. So if you have a problem that says, hey, I have such a huge amount of data and I do not know how to store the data, it becomes a big data problem. If you say that I have data from all different sources, how can I store this in a single place and process it? Well, it's a big data problem. If somebody says, I have tons of data and I want to process the data very fast in parallel, what do? I use big data solutions. If somebody says, I have some of the data, if I have sensor data coming in high velocity, how do I solve high velocity problem? Well, the answer is Hadoop. So Hadoop provides you with a lot of solutions. It is not only about data, it is also about processing, it's also about variety, it's also about velocity of the data. So all these things together constitute a big data problem. And when you have a big data problem, the only solution is a Hadoop-based solution. So a big data problem is a problem statement with respect to your processing capabilities, your storage capabilities, your variety of data, volume of data, and your velocity of data. Whenever you have a problem with respect to any of these features, then you as a data scientist or you as a data analyst, you can go to the client, talk to them and say, hey, these problems are associated with big data, we can provide a solution with Hadoop. So Hadoop is a solution for the problem statement created by big data. So what is Apache Hadoop? So that's what I said. Apache Hadoop is an open source platform. It allows for storing and processing of large amount of data. Right? So Hadoop introduces a new way to simplify analytics of large amount of data. So if you want to store large amount of data, process large amount of data, analyze large amount of data, then Hadoop is for you. So a closer look at Apache Hadoop. So as I said, guys, Apache Hadoop is a platform. So a platform is an end-to-end solution. But when you try to do a design, when you use Hadoop for providing a solution, then you need to use components of Hadoop. So Hadoop is just a platform. You need components of Hadoop to provide a solution, right? So Hadoop is an ecosystem. Hadoop is a platform. The platform consists of multiple services, right? So imagine that Hadoop is a tree and the tree has multiple branches, each branch specializing in solving a particular kind of problem. So what are the different modules of Hadoop? We have something called HDFS. HDFS stands for Hadoop Distributed File System. Hadoop Distributed File System is a file system where you can save any kind of data. If you're talking about audio data, video data, CSV data, TSV data, any data you name it, you can dump the data into HDFS. So HDFS service provides you with a storage layer for storing any kind of data into Hadoop. Hadoop Common. Hadoop Common are a set of libraries which can be used for ingesting the data. So if I say that I'm having data with me, I want to load the data into Hadoop. Like we had, right? The data was into the log files. The data was actually into RDBMS. The data was actually into Twitter, right? So the source of data was varied. So how do I use, what can I use for bringing the data into Hadoop platform? Well, I can use Hadoop Commons API and libraries for loading the data into HDFS and Hadoop. So HDFS is the storage layer. Hadoop Common provides you with all those libraries which you can use for moving the data inside your HDFS. Hadoop Yarn. Yarn is another service that provides and gives you a resource management, resource scheduling, and cluster management services. So we are talking about a distributed framework, right? So if I say I have a Hadoop platform, I would say it would mean that I have a distributed cluster of 10 nodes, 20 nodes, 30 nodes, or 40 nodes, or any number of nodes. So Hadoop as a platform consists of multiple nodes connected to each other. So when I have multiple nodes connected to each other, there has to be a service that can maintain the resource management, the cluster administration part of all these machines. And Hadoop Yarn does it for you. Yarn is a service that can manage distributed nodes so that all these nodes can work together in tandem and solve the big data problem for you, right? So big data is a problem statement, Hadoop is a solution. Hadoop solution has two parts, a storage problem and a processing problem. Yarn provides you with a processing problem. So if you use Yarn, you can write programs on top of Yarn which can help you parallelly process your programs. Right? So Yarn provides you with that resource management, job scheduling, process using which you can process any number of data in high speed. So normally if you process something, if you query something, guys, the query is going to take you hours and days, right? If you're talking about processing 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes of data. With Hadoop, data processing is super fast. You can process data within minutes. Because we're talking about distributed processing. How can you process something distributedly? Well, Yarn does it for you. Yarn gives you a framework which can allow you to do distributed processing. Now the question is, I want to do distributed processing. I know that Yarn can help me do that distributed processing. But how do I write a program that can leverage Yarn's distributed processing capabilities? The answer is MapReduce. So MapReduce is a programming framework. Yarn was a service. Hadoop Commons was common libraries. HDFS is a service. But Hadoop MapReduce is a programming framework. If you know Hadoop MapReduce, then you can write a program, and that program can leverage Yarn to process programs in parallel. Question is, how do you write Hadoop MapReduce programs? You can write Hadoop MapReduce programs in using multiple languages or services. One of them would be Java, another one of them would be Python, another can be Scala, another can be Hive, which is a SQL-based program, another can be Pig, which is a high-level language. So writing a MapReduce program, it is not associated only with Java or any programming language. You can write a MapReduce program also in SQL language. We'll see that. And you can also write it in something new, which is Pig. So your intention as a developer would be to write a MapReduce program and run it on top of Yarn. To write a MapReduce program, you can choose anything that you want. You can choose a Java programming language, you can choose SQL programming language, you can choose Python programming language. That choice is yours. Alright, tools for taming big data with Hadoop. So we'll talk about Sqoop. So Sqoop is actually one program that is used for transferring a large amount of data from an RDBMS into Hadoop. Large amount of RDBMS data into Hadoop can be transferred using Sqoop. And when you load the data, what you do is you load the data into Hive. Hive is a service in Hadoop which manages and stores structured way of unstructured data. So if you are having CSV data or TSV data, then you can load the data as tables in Hive, and once you load the data as tables in Hive, you can start querying these programs, and when you start querying the programs, you can process the data. Similarly, Flume is another service which is used for loading large amount of data which are real-time data. So Sqoop is normally used, so just to point out, Sqoop is normally used for loading up relational data into Hadoop. Flume is used for loading unstructured real-time data into Hadoop. So Hadoop does support loading up of structured or unstructured real-time or bulk data that you wish. So any kind of data you name it, you can upload the data into Hadoop. In Hadoop, where do you upload it? Well, if you are familiar with Sqoop or if you're familiar with SQL, then Hive would be the most appropriate place where you can load the data. If you're loading the data into Hive, then you can write SQL programs and create those wonderful MapReduce models for yourself. And once you write MapReduce programs, output of the MapReduce programs will be distributed across all the nodes using Yarn. So Hive is a service that gives you a structured flavor to the data that has been loaded into Hadoop. Once you load the data into Hadoop and into Hive, you can write SQL programs. Those SQL programs get converted into MapReduce and they run on top of Yarn for processing in parallel. So we'll see an example, guys, of this. Right. A closer look at Apache Sqoop. So this is how a Sqoop works. So if I have a RDBMS or a MySQL database, what I'll do is I'll import the data first into Hadoop. So I'll import a large amount of relational data into Hadoop. Inside Hadoop, if I am loading the data into Hive, I can process the data using Hive SQL languages. So I entirely process the data, entirely do all those processing analytics on the data, and then I can directly put the data across for some BI tools to use, or if I want, I can re-export the data from this relational, from this Hive back into relational database. That's my wish. So Sqoop provides you with an input and output feature where the data from an external world, which is external RDBMS, can be pushed into Hadoop, or the data from Hadoop process can be exported into RDBMS, provided the RDBMS has enough space for that. So Sqoop is an end-to-end process which allows you for inserting and extracting the data. So Sqoop is one of the examples of data ingestion service. So first thing you'll ever think about in Hadoop-based platform would be data ingestion. How, if I have identified use cases that might data is coming from 4 different channels. My first thing would be identifying those channels and thinking which service can be used for ingesting the data. Sqoop is one such example. Sqoop is one such tool which is again a part of Hadoop, which allows you for ingesting the data from an external system into Hadoop, and vice versa. If you really want, you can put the data and dump the data back into relational database. Samir says, can you use Oracle pump exports? Yes, you can. Sqoop can listen to Oracle. That's what I'm saying. Any RDBMS, Oracle, Postgres, MySQL, DB2, if your source of data is a relational database, RDBMS, then if you install and set up Sqoop, then you can ingest the data from any relational database into your Hadoop using Sqoop. Right? So that definitely you can do. All right, so let's go and track out or see an example. But before that, guys, you have a lot of questions. I'm going to answer the questions and then move ahead and complete one end-to-end project. All right, I'll start with Rakesh's question. I have 8 years of experience into Oracle PSQL, BI tools, but do not have any knowledge in any front-end technology. Is it a right choice to switch to Hadoop? Definitely yes. And with these discussions that we had, guys, I'm sure you might be convinced that with your SQL programming experience and background, you can start your career with Hive. Hive gives you a SQL flavor to your big data, and you can start writing your SQL queries for doing analytics. Right? So it is definitely a good choice. And then, your point of entry into Hadoop big data world would definitely be Hive, according to me. Siri says, do Hadoop jobs have telecommute remote working options, or do you need to be mostly working at the client sites? That depends from company to company, right? You cannot generalize these answers. If you're talking from a financial sector point of view, if your client is a finance domain client, they will be very much close-knitted. A finance client will always have a lot of restrictions. Compare that with maybe another use case, which are production use cases for log processing. Logs are pretty much open data, right? So you might not be pretty much strictly into a client side working on that. So this is a very open-ended question, Siri. It depends from client to client and the organization to organization. Some companies, they give a lot of flexibility. Some companies are pretty much, a hard bound. So it depends which company, which use case, which client you're working for. But if your question is, do every single Hadoop installation has to be on the client sides? Well, Hadoop runs on top of it. It can run on top of cloud, or it can also run in premise. If your client have set up an in-premise data center, then you have to go to that data center and work with them. If your client is okay with setting up Hadoop platform on cloud, then you can log in from any location and log into your cloud, right? And set up your Hadoop. So if it is on cloud, then yeah, it's pretty open. If it is in premise, then it will be pretty restricted in certain ways. Akanksha says, what should I start if I need to learn Hadoop? Yeah. So to answer your question, if you enroll yourself into a Hadoop course like Edureka, guys, the course is laid out like what we have seen. It will give you the basics of Hadoop, it will give you the basics of big data, it will talk about the architectural principles, designs and everything. So initial couple of hours, maybe 3-4 hours, will be totally based out of learning Hadoop from an architectural perspective. And that is the correct way. You have to learn the architectures of Hadoop. Once you are comfortable with the architectures of Hadoop, you can start learning and writing and implementing complex analytics. That is where your choice will come. What do you want, or which tool and technology you want to write your analytical queries with? Do you want to write your analytical queries with SQL? Then Hive will be a choice of tool for you for analytics. If you really want to use your Java skills into writing analytical programs, well, then custom written MapReduce in Java would be a choice where you can start using Hadoop. My point is, to learn Hadoop, the initial basics will always be the same. You have to learn Hadoop from scratch. You have to learn, the architectures, the principles, the distributed processing backgrounds, the services, HDFS layers, all these. These are the things that you're going to learn from you anyways. But when you really want to do a processing, when you know what needs to be processed and you really want to process your data, then The choice of tool to process your data can vary based on your interest level. You can choose Hive, Pig, MapReduce, anything that you want based on your comfort level. Sunil says, in this course, do you cover Hadoop hosting in cloud? Well, this course, this exact same course, the 30-hour that we are talking about, this is a course for Hadoop development. So here we do not talk about setting up Hadoop or installing Hadoop or Hadoop as a platform. We talk about Hadoop as a platform from your actual implementation on developers guide. We talk about Hadoop from the architectural principles side. We talk about the service side, like what are the tools to use for ingesting the data? What are the tools used for processing the data? What are the tools used for post-processing of the data? How do you do ETL on the data? How do you solve a use case with Hadoop? So here in this 30-hour course, we more or less are focused on solution implementation. But if you are interested, after this course, you can also enroll yourself with Hadoop administrative guide or administrative course. The administrative course will teach you how to set up Hadoop. That will be mostly covering up your infrastructural side of Hadoop, right? So you have two Hadoop sides. One is the developer side, another one is the administrative side. This is the developer side. We teach you, given a business problem, given a business use case, how do you solve it using Hadoop? Administrative part tells you how, given a commitment to client that we're going to provide you a Hadoop solution, how do you set up Hadoop? All right. So Shami says, I'm interested in understanding the format of this course and how practicals will be conducted. So normally, there are 10 modules that we talked about. Every single module will have its quizzes, questions, answers, practicals, and take-home assignments. So every course, every module will have a 3-hour discussion, guys. These 3 hours will be dedicated to a module. In that module, we're going to talk about architectures, basics, principles, end-to-end flows, how things happen in the background. So entire, in-depth knowledge about that course. Then we're going to have quizzes, modules, and then we're going to see a small hands-on on that module and move forward. So that is how the structure is for the course for every single 3-hour session on the weekends. So over a duration of time, in 30 hours, you will see that you have learned Hadoop on a practical way, on a hands-on way. We have learned the architectures of Hadoop. We have seen how Hadoop works. We've seen how Hadoop functions. And then we have also seen, moving forward, how to use Hadoop for solving a problem. So this is a more problem-solving way of learning Hadoop, right? Given a use case, how do I solve Hadoop from a use case perspective? Are we going to share the slides with us? The slides will be available to LMS. LMS is a learning module and tool, guys. You can, when you enroll yourself into Edureka, you're going to see that these modules or these PPTs are already available for you, and these PPTs will be available for you throughout your life. You will have a lifetime access to LMS. LMS has tons of PPTs, tons of books, tons of materials, white papers. You can log into LMS and you can start learning them, and you can download them, you can read them out, and those will be available to you throughout your careers and life. So LMS is a one-stop place where you can get huge amount of information and huge amount of resources on learning big data. Trust me, guys, I have never seen a single place where there's so much of content with respect to big data. So LMS is definitely a go-to place for you throughout your careers. Siri has a wonderful, interesting question. Is Hadoop the only platform for big data problems? No, no. Big data is a problem statement. Hadoop is a solution for big data. There are other solutions for big data. Examples are Teradata, Exadata, SaaS solutions, right? So there are so many other big data solutions, but other solutions are not even coming into the picture right now because Hadoop provides a distributed low-cost solution to your problems. So Teradata, Exadata, Netezza, these are all big data problems. These are all big data solutions, but most of them are not doing well because it is not as flexible, they are not as simple, and they are not as structured as Hadoop is. Pig, Hive are user-friendly programming languages like Java, or is very complex like JCL. Pig and Hive are even more simpler. Pig is a high-level language, and Hive, as I said, is a SQL-based language. So if you know SQL, you already know Hive. So one point is already covered for you guys. If you know SQL, that means you know Hive. Yeah, architecturally we need to learn Hive, but from a programming perspective, you know Hive already because you know SQL. Pig is a high-level language. It's so much easy and simple to learn. We'll see about that. Will you be the POC taking the sessions? At least yes. If you enroll yourselves, guys, into this coming weekend batch, then my batch starts this weekend on Saturday. This is the batch that I'm going to take. After that, I might take another batch on next month. So I take some sessions, of course, and these sessions will be, you can enroll for this session or any other session. There are wonderful instructors, but if you like this session, guys, if you really want to be a part of my session, then you have to go ahead, talk to the Edureka guys and get yourself enrolled. I think they are giving wonderful discounts rates for this session. Are you going to share the recordings and presentations in the demo? Yes, we're going to do that. Are you getting my question? Siri says, I think I've answered that. Nitish says, does this include details of data analytics and data scientist? Data analytics, yes, Nitish. Data scientist, a little bit, but majority of the data scientist work is statistical based work. They know statistics more. They do not know Hadoop, they know statistics. Given a data, they can say, you need to write this kind of a model. So this is not a statistics class in that way, but that if you know what algorithms you want to do or create, then you become a data scientist and use the programs that we are talking about. You can use Hive, Pig, MapReduce, or later on if you want you can use Spark to write those algorithms. Data scientist doesn't do Hadoop programs. Data scientist knows statistics and builds statistical models. You as a Hadoop developer, you're going to see their models and convert the models into a Pig program, a MapReduce program, or a Hive program, right? So if you ask me honestly, I would say yes, you do not get to play a data scientist role here because data scientist role will require you to know in-depth knowledge about statistics. But what we do here is, given a business problem, we convert that business problem into a MapReduce program using any of the 3 or 4 services that we're talking about. So we learn Hadoop from, or we learn an Hadoop angle to the problem solving. Analysts do not know Hadoop, they might not know Hadoop, they know statistics. Looking into the data, they can see that this data, if I move this data like this or run a model like this is how my data can get me more insights or hidden patterns of the data. I can find out hidden patterns of the data by writing some statistical algorithms. If you do not know statistical algorithm, that's okay. But as a developer, if somebody gives you a statistical algorithm, you can convert that into a Hadoop-based solution. That is what we do. We normally play a data analyst role, a data engineer role, where we can devise a model if we know it. If nobody knows that model because it is a very new data, then there will be data scientists hired in the team. They'll create the models. The models created by data scientists will be mostly pseudo language based. They will not run in Hadoop because they do not know Hadoop. They'll just give you overall picture like this is how you can create a model. Then based on that pseudo logic, you convert that pseudo logic into an actual MapReduce. That's what you do as a Hadoop engineer or as a data analyst. All right. Jay says the certificate for completing the course and doesn't classify us as a Hadoop scientist or data scientist. No, data scientist is a very big term, Jay. People spend years and years to become a data scientist or a data analyst. 30 hours cannot be sufficient for you to become a data scientist or a data analyst. What you can do is this certificate says that you have completed Hadoop course. That means now you are level 1 certified in Hadoop. You know Hadoop, and you can go ahead and work on Hadoop programs and Hadoop processes. Data scientist is a very big term, guys. You cannot become a data scientist in 30 hours, right? If that would have been the case, people would have been data scientists, everybody would have become data scientists by now. But what we say is, we provide you the basics, we provide you the platform. If you really want to become a data scientist, you take it up from there. You learn Hadoop Big Data, the basics from this 30 hours, and then take it up from there. There is nobody that can stop you from becoming a data scientist over the course of time when you have your basis and your basics covered up. Is this course covering troubleshooting big data issues? Yes. we're going to see how big data, troubleshooting can be done. So we have issues in there. We have solutions in that also. Java or SQL is the basic. Okay. Raghavendra says Java or SQL. Is it going to be the basic Java or SQL, or it should be an expert? Honestly, if you are an expert in Java and Java or SQL, if you're an expert in Java and SQL, it means you can solve that many more problems. So at the end of the day, guys, you have to become, or you have to attain an expert level. If you are not an expert right now, no issues. You have the basics of Java or SQL, you can start your careers. Over a course of time, you have to groom yourself up in becoming experts, right? Because these are very much industry specific requirements and problems, right? When a client says, I have a very specific problem, you have to be an expert on providing a solution to them. So you can start with becoming a basic developer with Java or SQL, but you have to groom yourself up. So you have to be, so guys, if you ask me, the only solution I give to people is, if you are interested in learning something new, if learning something new gives you that confidence, if learning something new is something that you want, Hadoop is for you. Because Hadoop is a platform where everything changes every 1 month. Things that you learn today, they're going to be changed in a couple of months. Only thing that is constant in Hadoop world is change. So you should be focused on knowing that yes, things can change. I have to upskill myself every 2 months. I got to learn new things over and over again. If that is something that you are okay with, comfortable with, then Hadoop is definitely for you. You cannot just sit on saying that I know something and it's going to be sufficient for me. No. Hadoop is an ever-changing, ever-increasing, progressing, dynamic world, and you have to be ready for taking up challenge of learning something new every couple of months. And that is how Hadoop is evolving right now. How many processes or projects do you learn during the course? We do not learn projects. We learn Hadoop as a service. There are 10 modules. In 10 modules, we learn 6 different services. We learn HDFS as a service. We learn MapReduce as a programming service. We can learn Hive, Pig, Sqoop, Flume as service, and then we'll wrap it up by using Uzi. So normally 7 different services that we're going to learn in this 30-hour course. Can we practice them? Yes, of course. So when you enroll yourself in the course, guys, Hadoop gives you a practice, a platform. So you can install and set up Hadoop in your own local machine in a VMware, or Hadoop or Edureka gives you a remote practice suite. You can log into the practice suite, and that practice suite is available to you throughout your careers. You can log into a practice suite and you can practice as much as you want. So Hadoop or Edureka gives you a platform where you can practice everything that you have learned. Do you get any system across, or do you install it on our own? So I answered that. You get both. You can install it on your own, and Edureka will give you a 24/7 support on setting that up. So how to set up is something that Edureka has a wonderful document on. Otherwise, Edureka also provides you with a remote login where you can anytime go ahead, log into that machine and practice. You do not have to install anything on your machine. So Edureka has both these options. So LMS is a big data. There stands with a smiley. Yes, LMS has become big data because it's storing such a huge amount of data and such varied amount of data, right? So yes, in that way, yes. Based on the fact that somebody has an Oracle apps experience for 5 years, what will be the best solution to learn? Oh, well, I'm not very familiar, Akanksha, with Oracle apps, but I would say if you're talking about Oracle apps, you have a programming background, right? It might not be Java, but if you know one single programming language, guys, it is not difficult to learn another new one. If you know Java, you can learn C++. If you know C++, you can learn Python. If you know Python, you can learn Scala. That will be interchangeable. So if you are okay with something that you have already learned, you can go ahead and learn another programming language, because learning a programming language is only learning the syntax. The logic building is already something that you have already achieved. Looking into a use case, how to create a logical flow in your head is already with you. Only point is, how do you translate that logic into a syntax? Learning a syntax would be so easy, right? Couple of days maybe at the tops. Else, you can start your career with Hive, which is always a SQL-based knowledge background. Everybody knows SQL, right? So it is always easy, and I've seen most of the people, they start their careers with Hive because everybody at some point of time in their careers, they would have definitely used Hive. I mean, definitely have used SQL, right? Is it a weekday or a weekend class? It is a weekend class, 3-hour weekend class. Do you teach Hive programming in this course? Yes. So Hive doesn't have any very specific programming in different ways. It's SQL based, but we do have practices for Hive. Do you get lifetime access to big data tools? Yes, you do get. Can we practice them? Do we get any system across? So I answered that, right? To work on lab exercises, will you provide a sandbox? I answered that. Do we get access to big data tools? I answered that, yes. For example, I have enrolled for the course and have completed it. Say that after 1 year I have some questions. Do Edureka allow me to question after 1 year too? Absolutely yes. Anytime you shoot a question, somebody is going to answer that for you. Any insight will be given about Spark? No, Naresh. Spark is actually not a part of Big Data Hadoop as of now. It's a part of Big Data, but it's not a part of Hadoop. No, it is actually, some of the guys are trying to move this inside Hadoop, but still not inside Hadoop. You know, Spark is a separate entity on its own. It works on top of Hadoop, but it's not a part of Hadoop ecosystem. Very much SQL and PL SQL. No, it's not PL SQL, guys. Again and again, it's SQL. SQL, right? Hive is SQL. Having experience of 8 years in PL SQL, with which role should we go for? I would say go as a Hadoop engineer. Start your careers with Hive. That's what I can say, right? So let's have a small demo, guys, and let's say have a small demo. Maybe you can understand that better. What is the price of the course? I'm going to come in there. All right. So imagine that I have a very small cluster. I have a 3-node cluster here, very small 3-node cluster. And in this 3-node cluster, because it is a distributed program, it's a 3-node cluster. So what I have is I have a SQL program, or I have a SQL database. So let's say I have a SQL program. I have a database called fraud. I have a table called history demo. This is the table structure that I have. So imagine that in my company, I have a transactional history table. The transactional history table looks like this. It has a transactional ID, it has a customer ID, age, transactional date, transactional time, merchant code, merchant ID, and dollar amount, the transactional amount that I have. This is the data. I want to analyze the data. I want to find out people who have been traveling in airlines and swiping their card. So I want to filter out the data for all these people who are into or who have booked their tickets using their credit cards for airlines. That's the use case that I have. What do I need to do? This is the SQL data. First thing that I need to do as a data scientist would be to move this data into Hadoop. I need to move this data inside Hadoop. And once I have the data inside Hadoop, I'm going to run some analytics on that Hadoop program, right? So what I do is I will ingest the data. I'll ingest the data from a MySQL database into Hadoop. So if I see that if Hadoop is installed, you can run some Hadoop commands like this. So I have Hadoop installed. In my Hadoop, I have some folders created inside my file system. Let me create another folder and dump my data inside this folder from this relational database. So I have a small query. So as I said, as we talked about, guys, the only way of ingesting the data, we want to ingest the data from the relational database into Hadoop. The tool that we're going to use would be Sqoop, right? We talked about Sqoop. So we say Sqoop import. I'm going to import the data from MySQL. So MySQL has this IP. So I have an IP of this one, a port number of this one. So this is the IP and port of my SQL database. That's where my SQL is running, right? And then the database. So which database that I need to look forward to? So I have already used, fraud database. So my database would be fraud. Username is root. So what is the username for logging into MySQL? Root. Password is blank. There is no password. And then I'm going to say, what is the table name? The table name would be fraud demo, right? So I'm going to insert the data into fraud demo with Hive import. I'm going to import the data on fraud demo table. So I'm going to insert the data from a relational database into a Hive table. The name in the Hive table will be fraud demo, and the data will always reside in my HDFS, right? It's the file system. So where in my file system the data will be loaded? The data will be loaded into user root sample table, or sample folder, right, with mapper1. So what is mapper1? We can only learn when we talked about MapReduce in details in the classes. So this is a very simple command. This command is going to connect to a remote MySQL database with username, password, going to find out which table I'm going to look forward to, and import the table and the data into a Hive table and move the data into HDFS. So if I fire this command, if you look into this, it has converted itself into a MapReduce program already, right? So it's running a job, it's running a MapReduce job. This job is going to upload the data from MySQL database into an Hive table in HDFS. It's a small cluster, 3-node cluster, so it might take a little bit of time, but eventually we're going to see that there is a MapReduce job running. So it says mapper 0, reduce 0. So we're going to talk about all these stuff in our 30-hour course. What is mappers? What are reducers? What is that framework that converts the data? Every single thing. So it seems that everything has been running correctly. It's giving me a lot of log options saying that this much of data has been uploaded, this much of data has been created. All these details are available to me. All right, so I have uploaded the data correctly into Hive. Now let's go into Hive. Hive is a service, so I go into Hive by just keying in Hive. All right. So right now in Hive, I'm going to see some tables. There are a lot of tables available here. A lot of tables available here. My table is fraud demo, right? That's the table name that I created. So I'm going to say select star from fraud demo limit 10. So I can see the same data, right? So data has been uploaded for me. Now I had a use case, right? What was the use case? My use case was find out all this data where people have been paying with their credit cards on airlines MCC. So I'll say select start from fraud demo where MCC equals to airlines. Now this is going to create another MapReduce job for me, and I'm going to find out all these records where people have been using their credit cards and swiping them for purchasing airlines tickets. So that's an analytics for me, right? So I want to find out how many of them. So that's analytics. So that is a simple way of ingesting the data from a relational database into Hive and then running a very simple analytical program. Now this program that I wrote, select star, you can term this as a model also. It's a very simple but still a model. If you're running this query, you are actually a data analyst. You are analyzing the data, but with a tool which you are very much comfortable with. Nagesh says, do you create our own tables? Can we create them when we require them? How do you enter data into the tables? Yes, we can create tables in Hive. How can you load the data? Well, data can be loaded into Hive using a lot of different commands in Hive. We're going to learn about Hive when you come into the course. But yes, unlike any other relational database, guys, Hive is not a database. Hive is a service. Hive doesn't have insert statements. We cannot insert individual records into Hive. We can load the data into Hive, like the way we did here, right? Loading bulk data into Hive. So there are different ways of loading bulk data into Hive. Out of them, one of this was using Sqoop. There are other options also. We'll learn about them and much more in that 30-hour course. Right, so now it has completed this program for me. It says 3 seconds it took for processing the data. And then I can see that these are all different customers and their transactional IDs, age and everything, who have actually gone across and booked an airlines tickets using their credit card. George says, why did the query with this where clause take so long? Well,
as cool as a tree.
Hadoop will not work pretty well with small amount of data. Hadoop works with large amount of data. With small amount of data, I'll tell you a reason. Let me give you another story. I have a large paper, In that paper, I want you to find out the total number of times the word airlines was used. Right? I have a large paper, a lot of things were written in there. I want to find out the number of times the word airlines was used. So what I can do is I can make photocopies of that piece of paper and I can give one photocopy to all of you. Right? I'm going to give one photocopy to all of you. And all of you can start searching for the number of occurrences of the word airlines. That can be a possibility. Or else what I can do is I can tear up the paper into equal parts. Let's say I tear up the paper into 20 equal parts and I give one part to all of you. So there are a lot of things that I'm doing, right? In order to make a parallel processing, I have to tear up the paper, I have to distribute that torn up paper to all of you, and I'll ask all of you to find out the total number of times the word airlines was used in that piece of paper only that are available with you. So now your processing time is reduced into 1/20th because you are not reading the entire paper, you are only reading a small piece of it that I've given you. And you come back to me with an answer saying that, in my piece of paper I have got 2 occurrences. Somebody else says in my piece of paper I got 5 occurrences. So I have to aggregate the data. I'll say, hey, totally the data, the total number of times the word airlines was used was, let's say, 25 number of times. With small data, the time taken to split the data, and once you get me the response to merge the data, that time remains constant, right? So with smaller amount of data, you will not see a lot of performance with Hadoop. But if I talk about, imagine that one single piece of data, instead of one single paper, if I give you entire Wikipedia, I give you entire Wikipedia and say, in the entire Wikipedia, find me the total number of times the word airlines was used. So now if I divide this problem into smaller chunks, let's say I want to give 10 URLs to all of you. Now what happens is the time taken to determine which 10 URLs should be processed by you and which 10 URLs should be processed by another person, that time is negligible because the time taken to process that 10 URLs will be more. So this is where big data comes into picture. If you're using big data for small data, you might not see that performance. But when you talk about large amount of data, the time taken for me to split the data is always constant. So that time becomes negligible because now we are talking about processing large amount of data. So big data is a solution for large amount of data, and when you process large amount of data, the small time that you saw for initiating resource management, resource associations would be bare minimal or negligible. Here the time taken to distribute the resources makes much more time than actually processing. Actually processing was only 3 seconds. So did I answer your question, George? Sankirtan says, do you teach Unix commands required? Yes, so basic bare minimum Unix commands, it's not about teaching them, but yes, I'm going to show you the Unix commands, the bare minimum ones, yes. Naresh says, for attending the course, is it good to have certain basic Unix command knowledge? Is it easier for us to understand the class? Yes, if you get a chance, just go through the basic Unix commands. If not, that's also okay. But as I said, if you know something, that will always come to your advantage. So definitely yes. So guys, what I'm trying to say is, if you are making a decision, you are into this course, you are into this discussion today because somewhere in your mind, somewhere in your heart, you know that maybe Hadoop is good for you. If you really wanted an advice, I would say yes, it is definitely good for you. If you are maybe making up your mind to learn Hadoop and you really want to attend my batch, please go ahead and contact Edureka team They'll tell you everything. There are huge amount of discounts going on, and a lot of things going on. Contact Edureka. This new course for my class starts from this Saturday. So if you want, you can join in there, guys. I would be very happy to see a lot of you, in fact, all of you into that course. I would really, really appreciate, if you want to go ahead and, take that course. Most importantly, guys, you have to be, I'm sure you have to convince yourself, but if you really want a, third opinion, I would say yes. Hadoop is something that is the next generation of technology. It is the future. And if you really want to float in the future, you have to learn something which is for the future. And Hadoop is definitely one of that. Sunil says, thank you for the demo. Thank you so much, Sunil, for actually being so patient in there. Naresh says, do you get data in tabular format? Not always. We do not get data in tabular format. For that, we have other services like Flume and all, which can be helped. So we're going to learn a lot of things about Hadoop, right? So I just gave you a tip of the iceberg. For unstructured data, schemaless data, we have different other tools also. And much more interesting, definitely yes. SQL or PL/SQL required for Hive? It's only SQL. Naresh says, we got an email saying Republic Day discount, but could attend the class which is starting next week. So we can reverse the discount for later training sessions? I think so. But if you have a question, guys, please go ahead, drop an email to Edureka. They're going to answer your questions, and they're 24/7 available. If you have any questions on the pricing, the discounts that they're going to offer to you, or something that you have a question in your mind, please go ahead and ask the questions. You just drop them a mail, they'll definitely come back. Can you get the data for Genome for the demo purpose to check the performance? Well, yes and no. Genome data sets are available in the market, guys. There are freely available data sets in Amazon and UCL. Problem is, we do not have a performance tuned cluster. Our cluster is only for as a sandbox to check out how things work, right? If you want to do performance tuning and performance optimization, you need to have that large amount of system and clusters, right? Nitish says, is Pig simple to learn like COBOL and PL1? Pig is even more simpler. Trust me on that. Even more simpler. All right, guys. Any more questions, guys? I'm really sorry, guys. I have stretched the class. I know it's already 15 minutes or almost, yeah, almost 15 minutes past my schedule. I'm really, really sorry, guys, to drag this on. But I'm really very, thankful that you have stayed back, and it was your patience. But I would say, guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It's a very interesting and wonderful world of big data and Hadoop. Trust me in that. Receive a demo session for NoSQL. Is it related and useful for big data? Yes. NoSQL is another part of big data. If you want big data, there is another angle to it, which is NoSQL, right? So NoSQL is also a part of big data, like Hadoop is. Nitish says, thank you very much. You were really very good and grounded for the first-time learners. It's all my pleasure, Nitish. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help. All right. So Jugal says, late here in US. It's a great class. I consider this for sure. Thanks again. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you so much. I'm not going to hold you back again. Thank you so much, guys, for being patient and stretching out. Thank you again, and I hope that I'm going to see you again in the sessions. With this thought in mind, guys, have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and thank you again. Naresh says, do you teach Hive? I do not teach only Hive. I teach everything in Hadoop, guys. Everything. All right. So when you come into the course of 30 hours, it is not only Hive that you learn. You learn 7 different things. Can you get any company projects that you from your side? Well, company projects are a little bit different, Nitish, right? They are very client specific, and I cannot share that, but I will definitely share a couple of more interesting use case stories. I have a lot of use case stories, and I have written a couple of white papers. I can share that with you. When we talk about those, normally I do that. When you come to a class, when you talk about a certain use case, a lot of people ask, do you have any practical demonstration of the use case? Then definitely I go ahead and talk about those from a white paper perspective. So I have some white papers. I can show them, when we talk about those components, right? So yes, we'll have it. Nitish says, to work on, we complete the course so that we can get industry experience. Yes, that's just a 30-hour introductory program. After that, you can start working on live projects. But as you learn, as you work on live projects, you get more and more experience, right? That is something that you cannot just gain while going into class. A class experience is something else, and a project experience is something else, right? Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again and again. And hopefully I'm going to see you up in upcoming batches. Till next time, guys. Thank you and stay safe. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Bye, guys.